Right, it is canning day. We have a wet, cold day here. Perfect day for canning inside. Eric and I have harvested a lot of vegetables over the past few days, and it's time to get them cleaned and processed. Usually this whole thing is like a multi-day challenge. So you harvest the vegetables, you get them cleaned, or like this, we have them stored in a few ice chests and totes here with some water. And then the canning, that all takes a lot of time, and oftentimes you're working into the middle of the night to get this stuff accomplished. We've got to get this inside, we've got to get our canning stuff ready, and we're going to see how much we can get done today. Let's start with this stuff. We're rinsing our jars and cleaning them and double checking them for like cracks or chips or anything. Our jars are several years old, so we like to just double check before we actually get started canning. All right, I think we're actually ready here to get started canning. So we're gonna grab our produce and bring that in. We're getting started on blanching our cauliflower, and then we're going to be freezing it. I am probably going to can this down the road, but I don't quite know what I'm going to make with it, and we still have a lot more produce coming out of the garden. So if you haven't heard of blanching, it is just basically the process of putting this in some boiling water for a certain amount of time and then exposing it to an ice bath, and then you go ahead and put it in the freezer. Cauliflower, I think it's for about 2 minutes that we're going to blanch it for. So I've got some really hot water right here boiling. I'm just going to drop these in. I don't want to put that many, just kind of want enough floating around in there so they can be blanched. So what this blanching process does is not only keeps the cauliflower looking very pretty, so it preserves the color, but it destroys that enzyme activity going on in there. So it just makes it look better and it preserves it a little better in your freezer. This is one that hasn't been blanched, and this is one that has been blanched. Really cool difference there. So this ice water stops the cooking, and once it has been in there for just a little bit, I can pull it out, make sure it's dry, and then we'll put it over in the freezer. I like the step of just using like a towel in between, because otherwise I would have very hot water going into this ice bath. Okay, bringing in our Swiss chard, we are going to be chopping off the stalks and freezing those along with our fennel. No blanching there, but I am going to be blanching the greens of the Swiss chard and keeping those separate. Both of us do not actually like fennel raw, but it is awesome cooked. It totally changes its flavor, and it really like enhances things if you add it to a meal. So that's what we're going to be doing with it later down the road. Change of plans, we are going to be blanching our Swiss chard stalks. I ended up with a lot, and we're not going to go through it that quick, so I'm going to blanch it. That way it will taste better. Sometimes when we get 6+ months down the road, the produce does have like an off flavor if we skip the blanching step. So I don't want to do that with this. It's messy in here, but we are trying to stay organized. We finished up with this produce, putting them in these little reusable bags. These are awesome. They go out in the freezer, and we're moving on to canning. There's a lot more produce to clean and cut up. So I'm gonna have Eric come in here and we're gonna keep going with this marathon. A little too much. All right. What do you want me to be responsible? Maybe I'll cut zucchini. That's a simple one for me.
Lots of good things we're making today. We're doing pickles, we're doing relish made out of zucchini. We got a bunch of pepperoncinis we're gonna make, and my favorite, and this is what we're starting with, doing a big batch of Cowboy Candy. Let's head over to the stove. Cowboy Candy, if you've never heard of it, it's basically candied peppers. We're using serranos and jalapenos, and we're gonna do almost like a thin syrup in there. And to get that, we're gonna use apple cider vinegar and a ton of white sugar. We're gonna start there. 4 cups of sugar. What I'm aiming for is I want leftover brine because we're gonna cook the jalapenos down in the sugar. We're gonna add the syrup to it, and I want leftover because it makes an excellent jerky marinade. We didn't get to make Cowboy Candy last year. I was pretty bummed. The pepper harvest wasn't too good. This year, the peppers kicked butt. We're gonna have all kinds of Cowboy Candy. Well, we're going for a pretty thick syrup on this, so I'm at a total of 6 cups of sugar. We're gonna let this heat up. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be enough. We've got a bundle of thyme and sage in there that we're gonna cook down. I got it tied together. We're gonna pull that out before we can it. And we're gonna add all kinds of cool things. We like to add turmeric. It gives it a nice orange color. And we're gonna do cayenne, peppercorns, celery seed, coriander, and some mustard seed. Multitasking here. So we got our water bath canner on the back going, and we're gonna do the Cowboy Candy in half pints this time. So we're gonna get some jars heated up back there, and then the Cowboy Candy, we're gonna get that to a boil and let it boil for about 10 to 15 minutes. We have removed our jalapenos from the brine, and we actually added some more sugar, another 2 cups, and we let that cook down a little bit longer. I didn't want to overcook the jalapenos, but we are at a good thickness. We're gonna get our jars out. We're gonna can up some Cowboy Candy. Well, those turned out absolutely beautiful. We're gonna get some bands on these. These are gonna go in a water bath canner today. Really looking forward to these. Arielle just reminded me how good those are on pizza. So that's pretty exciting. We got a bunch of leftover brine too that we're gonna use to marinate some meat later in the year. And after these are done, we're gonna get started on pickles. And I got the cucumbers sitting in some ice cold water with a bunch of salt in there. So I'm gonna get these rinsed off and we'll start on these next.
forget how many jars we already made. No,
It
because
is extremely sweet.
I only had one. It's Italian sweet frying pepper.
No,
I
but
only
like
had
that's
one
the
plant.
sweetest pepper I've ever had.
Well,
Oh,
I have more seeds.
that's
I can't get over like the fact that I love the green color of this, like the light, bright green, but then I love that deep,
darker cucumber green.
beautiful
Yeah,
cucumber green. Yeah. Oh, I need more jars already.
me too.
Do you squish these down or no?
Yeah, a little bit on those ones.
You make pickles like that, and you're good for like 2 years, and you never want pickles again for like 4, and then you're back in the game.
Then
You know
you
what I
gotta
mean?
make them again. Pickles and pepperoncinis. We're gonna do these at the same time because we're gonna use the exact same brine for both of them, and it's pretty straightforward. It's 1-to-1. Vinegar, we're gonna use white to water, and then you can do whatever kind of spices and herbs you want to do. So that's 26 cups of brine, and we have 21 jars that we're trying to fill. So that should be enough, I'm hoping. And we're gonna add our spices and herbs at this point. We're gonna do salt, mustard seed. We're gonna try something new, which is actually pink peppercorns. Kind of excited to try those. We're gonna do the black peppercorns, coriander, and some celery seed. I'm gonna get this up to a boil and let it go for about 15 minutes, release some of these flavors.
You want this on?
Okay, let's see. So each one took, about a cup. So we should be more than, should be enough brine, right?
Yeah, maybe if we have extra, we'll just... We're on our last batch of pepperoncinis, and Eric made the most perfect amount of brine. We've been canning for years, and we have a pretty good idea of volume, but rarely is it like spot on like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. We had just the right amount. These took a little more liquid than the cucumbers. This took about 2 cups each jar. We always wipe all of our jars with vinegar just to keep the rim clean before we put the lid and the bands on. Then I'm leaving like a 1/4 inch headspace on these. And we are just water bathing them for like just a minute or 2. And that's because I want them to seal. Usually Eric and I do what's called open kettle for these because we want them to be pretty crunchy, but they don't always seal, and I really want seals. So very minimal processing time. We've moved on to getting some of our onions cleaned up. We conveniently had them close by. They are curing right behind Eric in our house. And this is for our zucchini relish that we are making. We were going to make that tonight, but we're postponing it till tomorrow. We're going to cover this mixture, the onions and the zucchini, with kosher salt and let that sit overnight, pull out some of that moisture, and make the relish tomorrow morning. Starting off this morning with our zucchini relish. We rinsed it and drained it, have it in a pot heating up with some of our leftover cauliflower bread and butter pickle brine that we have left over from last week. And this is predominantly vinegar, white distilled vinegar and apple cider vinegar. It has, I think it's like a 1-to-5 ratio, 1 being water. So really small amount of water. Relish doesn't usually have that much water, and it does have sugar in it. So we're gonna be doing a little taste test once this heats up, see if we need to add anything else. I'm gonna get some fennel and dill chopped up and added to this mix. We're gonna add some brown sugar to this. Eric and I don't necessarily love zucchini relish. I kind of like cucumber relish more, but We didn't have enough cucumbers to make it, so we are doing what we have available, which is zucchini. We want it to taste delicious. There's already a lot of those sweet spices in this mixture, like cloves, allspice, and cinnamon, so it has a really nice aroma already. We've got some jars that are hot in the back, and we're just gonna let this cook for maybe like 5 minutes. It's delicious.
Make me a hot dog, I'll try it.
Whatever works best for you.
Right, pretty good amount. These are gonna go in the water bath canner for just 10 minutes. And then next is another one of my favorites, and it's kimchi, but we're doing like a huge batch. So we gotta get cleaned up and we're gonna get started on that. Oh my gosh.
I know, I would use one of these as our compost. Look at that color cabbage.
Oh wow.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It's like lilac or psychedelic purple.
Yeah,
It's
man.
really pretty.
Is that good size?
Perfect. Little spears or strips. I like that. Oh my gosh. That's a beauty.
Yeah, they're nice.
It's like perfect.
3 pounds, 2 ounces. That's a big turnip. That's without the greens too. It's this big, you know?
It's amazing.
It's amazing how tender it is.
You could tell by the skin it was going to be tender. Eric and I are using slightly different ingredients for our kimchi. We use just what we have available to us in our garden. So we're using standard cabbage, and we are using turnips and green onions and kohlrabi. I think the traditional ingredients is a Napa cabbage and the daikon radishes, those long white icicle looking radishes. And then I think it uses carrots too. I'm not quite sure, but I believe it does use green onions. So that ingredient is correct. I can't grow Napa cabbage for the life of me, so thankfully I have some other good cabbages. We're using a really cool one today. It's called Mermaid's Tail, and it's absolutely fabulous. It has all these cool colors in it. All this chopping takes a considerable amount of time, so it's nice to have 2 people working away in here. Once we get this all chopped, we can kind of move on to the next step. It's that one scene in a video that I'm thinking of that goes like, "Mother, would you da, 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 da." What is that? What's that from?
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I don't.
Oh.
These have to be like the crunchiest green onions ever.
They're rain. It's the season. I know. It was fabulous.
They're
Huh?
so crispy. Well, it's part of the kimchi now. Ooh, my eyes. Okay. I beat you. Getting some ginger and garlic grated up. When you grate it in kimchi, I feel like you get a ton more flavor. And we're going to take most of our ingredients and we're going to put them in 2 5-gallon buckets because we have a lot, and we're going to start salting them.
Man. Oh my gosh. Check out those pretty colors. Looks awesome. We've got these evenly dispersed and we're ready to start massaging. I put 6 tablespoons of kosher salt in each one. This just varies how much salt you're going to use for the fermentation process. We kind of like ours on the heavier side. So a general rule is 1 to 3 tablespoons of salt per 1 quart of water. We're not actually adding water to these. We're gonna be massaging them and they create their own brine. So we're probably gonna have to add a little more salt, in all honesty, to account for the kohlrabi and the turnips, but we're just gonna get going with this.
We're making our sauce for our kimchi. Well, we've already made our paste, and this is pretty easy. It was flour, water, a little bit of sugar, cooked it on high. It's nice and thick, so we're gonna start with that. Other ingredients we're going to use for this sauce is a hot pepper chili paste. We're going to use the Korean chili flakes, and we're going to do fish sauce. This is looking really good. It tastes good too. We're going to add the garlic, and I got a jalapeno in there because I had an extra. That's all grated up. We're going to add a bunch of ginger, and we got basil and parsley going in here. Topped it off with a little more fish sauce and our green onions that we chopped up earlier. This is looking really good. We're gonna put this over our kimchi. That really broke down, so we're able to fit this in one 5-gallon bucket. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a cabbage leaf, or you can use a dinner plate. We're gonna smush down the kimchi. There we go, there's a ton of liquid in there. That's what we're after. We want the kimchi completely submerged in this brine. We're gonna keep a lid on it, and we're gonna check it every day. It's gonna be about a minimum of 2 weeks till we can eat it, and it's gonna go on our back counter. 5 gallons of kimchi, 51 jars of beautiful canned food. Not bad for 2 days worth of work. And I'm looking forward to eating this all this winter. Decently thick. Cowboy Candy. The relish.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Change of plans. Change of plans. We are going to be blanching our Swiss chard stalks. What if I lost my finger right in that scene? Right? Don't touch my frond.
Frond or frond?
Frond.
Is it frond?
Frond with a D.
Really?
You really thought it was frond?
Yeah.
Hey, frond.
Pretty sure it is a frond.
It's a frond.